Shalom everyone, and this Parashat Noach, um, is a very significant parasha, the second parasha of the year, and we have certain lessons over here that we need to understand in order to be able, especially nowadays, to basically witness and at the same time face, deal with deal with basically is the word, uh, these special days ahead of us. So Parashat Noach, it's in the book of Genesis, verse 10, and we have two major events being covered in Parashat Noach. So you have to remember when we read about anything of historical value being read or scientific value being read in the Torah, this is a uh, we're not supposed to let that mislead us, because the Torah is not about teaching us history or science. It's about teaching us the wisdom that we should use in order to get the best out of the days we have on this earth. So the parasha starts with the story of Noach, very famous story. You find it in different versions in many, many, many cultures, civilizations, traditions around the world. And he speaks about the great flood that basically erased the human civilization, and Noach started a new civilization. So the story of the what led into the flood, what happened during the flood, after the aftermath of the flood, all of that is on one hand the beginning of Parashat Noach, and then we have another story, and that's a story that happened generations later on, and this is the story of the story of the Tower of Babel. There are two significant, very important stories. The Tower of Babel, you can find that towards the end of the parasha, although it is a very important message for us. Genesis chapter 11, verse 1. So the whole chapter 11 is about the Tower of Babel. And so we have these two stories have two great messages. One message is about how do we deal with a disaster? How do we deal with a civilization that is falling apart? How are we dealing with an environment that is not functioning anymore? How do we deal with people that you can't count on them anymore for your safety? Because, one of the major conditions for human welfare, happiness, is safety. If you live in fear that any moment somebody can come and take away your life, your money, your assets, your freedom, then it's almost impossible to have any kind of a well-being in a time like this. So this is the first part of Parashat Noach, and the last part of Parashat Noach, the flood, the story of the Tower of Babel, has a very, very important message. It still speaks about human beings making great mistakes. We're very good at it. Okay, we are human beings. We have free will, and if you're not going to make mistakes, how can you exercise your free will? The free will is about falling, but also the free will is about choosing to fix yourself, get up on your feet, and try all over again. That's also a very, very, very important part of understanding what does it mean free will. The story of the Tower of Babel is kind of a perplexing story. One language, one nation, one people, and then different languages like a theory that trying to explain how come there's so many languages in the world when everybody's supposed to be coming out of Noach. Okay, so I won't go into all the research of ethnology and the development of languages. This is not an issue. Although language is a very important word in this chapter. However, what the Zohar is saying is, here you have a message, and the message is, we had a whole civilization that basically rebelled deliberately, consciously, against the Creator. Still, what was the punishment? They lost the language. And why? Because the Zohar is giving us the message, they were united. They had unity. They had unity, and because they had unity, nothing could hurt them. And that's why it says, if you read Genesis chapter 11, verse 6, ויאמר אדוני הן עם אחד ושפה אחת לכולם. And God said, they are one nation, one language to all of them. וזה החילם לעשות, ועתה לא ייבצר מהם כל אשר יזמו לעשות. And whatever they started to do right now, nothing can stop them from doing it. And the Zohar is giving us an amazing lesson, and I want just to start that as a message of hope, because the words of the Zohar are so powerful and so helpful. And it says like this. If we go to the Zohar, Parashat Noach, Hasulam, commentary, verse 385, חמי מכתיב, הנם אחד בשפה אחת לכולם בגין דהינון בליבה אחת ורותה אחת וממלא לי בלשון הקודש ואתה לא ייבצר מהם כל אשר יזמו לעשות. ולהתמן דהימנה עובדה דילהון אבל מי דעבד אבל בלון דרגין דלילה ולישן דילהון לטאטה וכדין התמנה עובדה דילהון. See, what does it say? That it's one nation and one language to all of them. I'm talking again about the civilization described in chapter 11, about that is called the Tower of Babylon, or Babel. Now, whatever they want to do, whatever they initiate doing, no one can stop their deeds. So God said, what should I do? The only way to stop them is to mix up their language. Okay? It's not important what happened so many thousands of years ago. But what does matter is, as it says in the next verse, 386, Uma mishum shayu beratzon velev echad, and because they were in one desire, one will, one heart, v'dibru b'lshon hakodesh, and they spoke the holy language, Hebrew. What does it say? Nothing can stop them from their mission. And, in addition, the Zohar adds, V'din ha'elyon lo yachol lishlot aleim. And the judgment from above cannot rule them, cannot control them. Anu, or החברים שעוסקים בתורה, we, or the friends that are applying the Torah and studying Torah and applying to their lives, ואנו בלב אחד ורצון אחד, and we are in one heart, and one will, one desire, על אחת כמה וכמה שלא ייבצר ממנו. Of course, that nothing can stop us, whatever we want to achieve, מה שנרצה לעשות. אמר רבי יוסי, verse 387, מכאן נשמע שכל אלו בעלי המחלוקת אין להם קיום. From there we learn that those people that are busy in argument, dispute, they do not have an existence, which means whatever the existence they have, it's false, it's elusive. שהרי כל זמן שבני העולם הם אלו עם אלו ברצון אחד ולב אחד. As long as the people of the world, all the people, all the world, as long as they are together with each other, with one will and one heart, אף על פי שמורדים בקדוש ברוך הוא לא שלט בהם דין העליון. Even though they all rebel against God, against the Creator, judgment cannot fall upon them. They cannot be judged. וכמו שאירע בדור הפלגה, כיוון שנחלקו, and the moment they were spread and they were not together anymore because their language was somehow scrambled, then they simply fled everywhere else. Which means that people who insist on dispute, argument and separation, אין להם קיום. בעלי מחלוקת אין להם קיום. They have no existence. They cannot exist. That has to fall apart. משמע, verse 388, אמר רבי חייא said, משמע שהכל תלוי בדברי הפה. So everything depends on the words of the mouth. Which means, when people have speech that is unifying, that is comforting, that is supporting, that is basically enlightening to each other, then nothing could hurt them. Even though they rebelled consciously against the Creator, the only punishment they had, they simply scattered around. No disease, no plague, no earthquake, no flood, no tsunami, nothing. They just were scattered away around. אבל עתיד לבוא, in the future to come, מה כתוב? What does it say? כי אז אהפוך אל עמים שפה ברורה. Zechariah chapter 14. And then I will turn to be one clear language to all the nations. לקרוא כולם בשם השם. Everyone will be united to call the name of God. ולעובדו שכם אחד. And to work for him as one. וכתוב והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. And it says also, and God will be, the first verse is the book of Zephaniah 3. This one is Zechariah 14. And that time, God will be the king of the whole earth. Which means, the Zohar is teaching us something very important. And that's the key. We're coming into very, very, you don't have to be a great Kabbalist or a prophet or a seer to see that human society is shaking. The rules that were very good for a while and created a flourishing society on big, 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 huge parts of the planet, on many, 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 many people that live on Earth, a lot of them enjoyed, most of them enjoyed the great bloom or expansion, growth that happened after World War II. The result was education, health, longevity, more safety, more trust, more happiness, more access to livelihood and anything that is good. But these days looks like they are over, and from the corona and on, we are witnessing how our trust in the way society was built in the last 80 years, our trust is disappearing. We're starting to realize everyone for themselves. And here it gives us the Zohar a very important message, that the message from the Torah, Parashat Noach. When everything is falling apart, one thing you have control over. You have no control over uh, the whole of humanity, all the shifts and the moves in world politics that it's like so fast and so confusing. And most people have no idea what's going on. But one thing you can hold on to, being part of a united community. If you're part of it, first of all, being part of a community is a people started to think, government is giving me everything. I don't need a community. Once upon a time, people needed a community in order to survive, not just to live or to flourish. Now, you don't need, you can live by on your own. You don't even need the smallest part or cell of a community, family. Yeah, who cares about the family? Do I need to care for somebody else's opinions? I can already work by myself and live in a nice place without somebody else helping me doing that. I can do it by myself. So then we came into loneliness, the biggest disease of our times, and realizing that we need a community and building a community, being part of a community, working on creating a community or joining a community right now is the big mission. We need to be part of a community. However, if you are part of a community or trying to become part of a community that is full of dispute, arguments, discrimination, and so on about who is more, who's less, stay away from that. This is a disaster. However, if you find yourself a community or you create a community that is based on the rules of unity and listening to each other and building together, you are really part of the change that the world needs to go through, because a human being needs physically and spiritually needs to be part of the community. Without it, we have no ability to manifest our possibilities, our abilities. So this is a very important message that we have, especially this week, especially this time, the year 5784 in the Hebrew calendar, that the world is really shaken, not just with the things happening in Israel, but the whole world is really moving fast towards a state of heightened uncertainty and lack of trust in whatever we used to trust in the past few decades. So let's go back to the beginning of Parashat Noach and try to understand the message. What is the flood about? What the flood, here we are talking about, God is changing his mind. Okay? These are the last few verses of Parashat Bereshit, introducing us to the birth of Noach. And it says in Genesis chapter 6, verse 6, Vaynachem Adonai ki asa et ha'adam ba'aretz vaytatzev libo. And God regretted that he made Adam, humanity, on the earth, and he was sad. Okay, verse 7, Vayomer Adonai emche et ha'adam asher barati. So God says, let me erase the humanity that I created from the face of the earth. Me'al pnei adama. Me'adam ad behema, from human to beast, ad remes to the smaller living things, ועד עוף השמיים, till the birds of the heavens. כי ניחמתי כי עשיתים. I am just regretting making them. And this is a very dangerous expression, like reading it simply, just on simplistic layer. That's very dangerous. It's like God is being affected by our behavior. And what we learn is that we just read last week about the creation, and about the whole creation is just an emanation from the will of the Creator to share love, bliss, and joy, pleasure with his creatures. How come God, the endless God that we are talking about, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of monotheism, the God of Moses, the God of the Exodus, changes minds? How come he changes his mind? And the answer is that the Torah is teaching us, as the sages explain to us, God is one, God never changes. However, the Torah talks in human language. If the Torah talked to us in God's language, we wouldn't understand. Because our brain is under the effect of separation, time, whatever our reality is made of, that we were created in such a reality in order for us to take the fragmentation, the confusion, the challenge, the misunderstanding, the bitterness, the darkness, the suffering, all those terrible things that humanity is going through. And our job is to mend it, put it together, and especially mend together our consciousness. Everything depends on consciousness. It's all about our perception of reality. And therefore, we spoke about it last week, Parashat Bereshit, with the words of the Nachmanides, saying that the whole thing is about emunah, which means faith and connection to the Creator, which means our job is to overcome the disconnection, overcome the illusion, overcome the fragmentation, and unite our state of mind with the oneness of the Creator. This is our challenge. This is our greatest challenge. The moment we are being able to deal with this challenge properly, how do we know properly? When we are capable of realizing that God never changes, that his love towards his creatures will never change, cannot change, because he's endless, beyond our logic. And whatever changes is our perception of God. We, humanity, we perceive God as, it's called a personification. We apply our own lacks, limitations, and fragmentation upon him, although he does not fall under these definitions, any definitions, because definition comes from the word finite, and the Creator is infinite. Our job is to elevate our state of mind, our consciousness, our understanding of reality, our perception, into reuniting with the Creator. The whole thing is about reuniting with the Creator, and that's called emunah, a faith and connection. This is what teshuvah is about, reconnection. It's not about repentance. Repentance is like, oh God, I'm sorry, I made mistakes, I hurt you, I'm not going to do it anymore, I really promise. That's very, it's not the thing, it's not working. It's not working because that's not what God needs. He doesn't need anything from us. He just created us in a space full of contradictions, confusion, misunderstanding. So when we mend that broken reality in our mind and we create a state of mind that is capable of floating above, putting everything together and realizing the real intention of the Creator, when we achieve that state of mind, we basically achieve the goal of our lives. And that's the most important thing we can ever do. So let me explain how does that apply in the story of Noah. And we have to understand, it says in verse 9, Genesis chapter 6, Ele toldot Noach. These are the toladot. Toladot means offsprings, results, manifestations, fruits of Noach. Okay? Noach, איש צדיק תמים היה בדורותיו. And many commentators are asking, it should be, these are the generations of Noach, Shem, Ham, and Yefet, his three sons. They are being mentioned only in verse 10. Vayoled Noach shlosha banim. And Noach gave birth to three sons, Shem, Ham, and Yefet, which basically became, according to the Torah, this parasha, the foundation of humanity after the flood, after humanity was erased from the face of the earth. So why saying these are the generations or the offsprings or the fruits? It's in Hebrew. All of them are really different words to describe the word toldot. Why using Noach ish tzadik tamim haya? That Noach was a righteous person. Okay? And so Rashi, the great commentator, he's and he's bringing some different ideas, but one of them is that to teach you that the fruits, again, fruits, offsprings, generation, whatever comes out of the righteous people, are their good deeds. Okay, so the children are not necessarily part of that. Sometimes they do, sometimes they're not. And the Zohar is saying something very, very important. How do you know where is your consciousness, if it's in the right place or not? And we learned in the parasha of Bereshit, that during the creation of the universe, we have to understand that from the point of view of the Creator, the whole creation came to a completion in verse 5 in chapter 1 in Genesis. And there was a night, which means the creation, which is, it's not light, it's opposite of light, it's the receiving of that light. That's why it's darker than the light that expands directly from the Creator. What is night? That means what creation is based on is on one essence, and that's the desire to receive God's light. Okay? That desire, just to make it simple, a human being without desire is not really alive. Okay? A human being is being basically motivated, moved. Everything is the desire. The desire is like your powerhouse. This is the engine. People with small desire or almost no desire, they almost don't move, they don't go anywhere, because a person is not, it's not about their looks, it's not about their wealth, it's not about anything, it's about one thing: desire. People could be very short and very successful, very tall and very successful, very beautiful or ugly and very successful, or a failure. It's nothing to do with how they look like. It's everything. It's about their ambition. And ambition is a result of the desire. So we are all creatures of desire. Why? Because, as the sages are teaching us, the Creator is the great giver. There's no giving if there's no one to receive. So we are here to receive God's bliss. From His point of view, that was done with above time and space, just the second, there's no second, it's no time, just by the creation that was done. And there was a night, there was a day, one day, one. Everything was already one. Now, so why do we need to continue? Everybody was fulfilled and everybody was happy, and that's the end of the story. But it was not the end. And the answer is, again, I'll repeat the same concept we have to remember. We were imbued with His light, endless light. And that endless emanation, not just that it fulfilled us, it was impressed in us. And that's why we learn a few verses later, we were created in His image. And what's His image? The image of God is the image of independence, creativity, sharing. When everything is perfect, you're not independent. You cannot create, you cannot share. And therefore, the creation that we know needed to be created, which means the world had to go under a long process of devolution, not evolution, devolution, in order to create a space in which people experience pain, confusion, fragmentation, despair, darkness, all the negativity, till even in reaching total darkness of hatred and lack of desire to live. Why? Because overcoming that makes you a real creator. Okay? So the teachings of the Zohar teach us that it was not an easy process. The process is very sophisticated to create in an endless universe of endless light a space of confusion, misunderstanding, lack of faith, anger and hatred and despair. That did not come out easy. It was very hard to create that illusion that most of us are confused with, thinking that this is what rules in the universe more than any other power. Okay? So, how do we know that we are connected to the universe of light and fulfillment, or to the universe of darkness and negativity? Because ze leumat ze bara otam. They were created one in front of another. The universe of light and the universe of darkness. The universe of faith and connection and the universe of lack of faith, lack of connection, and misery. How do you know? It's the holy system or the impure system, as the Kabbalists call it. And the first thing is, when you know that the Zohar is teaching us, the dark system does not bear fruits, which means you can see that a person, and we see it very easily today, people working very hard, very hard. Today you can work 24/7. Once upon a time you could work only from sunrise to sunset. Okay, and then you had no light, you had to go to sleep in order to get up as early as possible to go on. Today, 24/7. You can work making a living or making money, fortune and fame and power 24/7. So when they sleep in your neighborhood, you can work with people on the other side of the planet, and also there are a lot of people awake at that time in your side of the planet. So wow, so people are working so hard, so why is it that they're so unhappy? And the answer is very simple. In the impure system, there are no fruits. There are no fruits. It doesn't matter how much you work. It doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank or how many houses do you own around the planet, and maybe yachts and private planes. If you are connected to the impure system, it doesn't matter how much you work. You'll never feel that you are bearing fruits. You'll become always neurotic, psychotic, depressed, upset, and you don't understand what's wrong with you. You have everything that your brain was washed with since you were being a baby. You work hard, you buy, you shop, you acquire, you get things and more things and more things, and you'll be happy. And it doesn't work because that's the impure system. Here the Zohar is teaching us there is the pure system. And the pure system, the first thing you know, there are fruits. And what's the fruits? What are the fruits? That you can achieve inner peace, inner pleasure. You feel that your actions are bearing fruits. And that's the immediate result. That was Noah. Noah was a righteous person. He was a tree bearing fruits, long lasting fruits. And how do we know? We are, all of us, are his descendants. Okay? The fruits are here and they are eternal. So the Zohar is teaching us now a deeper message. But there's another thing. What's so important with Noah and how was he protected? And the Zohar says in the Parashat Noach, Perush HaSulam, the Sulam commentary, verse 6. What was the ark about? You know, Noah's ark. What was the ark about? Which means, okay, Noah was a righteous person. Why did God need him to build something, you know, this architectural big ship, ark, bring all the animals and so on? It's like, it sounds very, you try to push it. It's very hard with a normal brain, you know, how many animals you can put in a box made of wood? You know, how many? They were in that ark for a year. Okay? That makes it harder even to understand. They had one window and that window was locked, closed down for a whole year. It's very hard to understand that. And what we understand from the Zohar is that the ark is a message to us. How do we create, generate an ark? Mahi teiva, what is an ark? Ve'omer hi aron habrit. And the Zohar said it's the same concept as the ark of the covenant. What is the ark of the covenant? When the Israelites leave Egypt, they have an ark leading the camp. That was the ark. That was basically the coffin of Joseph. Joseph the righteous. He was buried by the Egyptians in a coffin in the Nile. So the presence of Joseph will bless the Nile and therefore the whole of Egypt. But Joseph, before he died, he made his brothers give an oath that when they leave Egypt, they have to take his coffin. And when they leave Egypt, Moses goes to look for his coffin, finds his coffin, takes the coffin out, and when they cross the Red Sea, the ark that is walking in front of the camp is the coffin of Joseph. Remember, the Ark of the Covenant was built only months later. Mount Sinai in Revelation, then the sin of the golden calf, then Moses goes up to the mount second time, and only then when he comes down, they start to build the Ark of the Covenant. It takes them 6 months to build the tabernacle and the Ark of the Covenant, and since that moment, the Ark of the Covenant is leading the camp. But who was leading the camp before that? It was Joseph's covenant, the same word in Hebrew, Aaron. There's the Aaron of the Ark, Teiva, Aaron. It's two words that repeat themselves. We have Noah, the righteous, in the Ark, Joseph in the Aaron, Ark, the Ark of the Covenant with the covenant inside. So we have the same concept repeating itself 3 times as a very important concept. What is that concept about? That's what the Zohar is asking. What is this concept? שהיא המלכות אחר שקיבלה היסוד לתוכה הנקרא ברית. ונוח והתיבה למטה היו כן כמו יסוד והמלכות של מעלה. So the Zohar explains, this is a metaphysical concept, okay, which means you have the concept of the righteous, tzaddik yesod olam. The righteous person is the foundation of the world, but it's also connected to Sefirat Yesod in the tree of life. And Sefirat Yesod is also connected to the sexual organ, but it's also the symbol of fertility and bearing fruits. And it's also the symbolism of success in this physical world, financial success, which means when we are talking about living in a physical reality, when we think that the physical reality is all what there is, you have a vessel, a case, an ark that is empty. So it doesn't matter if you build your home from pure expensive marble, maybe you can build it from gold, maybe you can build it from very expensive wood, or any kind of precious materials. You can furnish it with all, it's still, the concept is teiva. It's a case. A case for what? Okay? It is it's an ark, it's a box. It's for what? To receive pleasure, to receive fulfillment, to receive something that I will feel that I'm containing, that I'm fulfilled. Okay? So what do? We build a vessel. So we take care of our bodies. Okay? We make sure we eat the healthiest food. We make sure that we go by the rules of fitness. We are very important. It's very important to live in a place that is built by the rules of health, security, and so on. All of that, it's all about building. This is only the teiva or the aron. It's just the vessel. What about the inside of the vessel? So we are being taught, you don't see. Do you see love? Do you see fulfillment? Science taught us if you don't see it, it doesn't exist. Okay. Till not long ago, we didn't see radio waves. Does that mean that they didn't exist? Till not long ago, we didn't see atoms or any atomic particles. Does that mean they don't exist if I don't see it? Okay? We don't see consciousness. Does that mean it doesn't matter what your consciousness is about? Of course it matters. So the fact that you can't see God or spiritual fulfillment yet with scientific measurements and tools doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's just a matter of time. And we can tell already when it exists or not. Why? We know very well that well-being and spiritual well-being has an immediate, direct effect upon our physical condition, immune system, the metabolism of our body. Everything is directly affected. And today, there's so many publications that billions and billions of dollars were wasted on finding out what's the secret of well-being. And it's about something that is beyond logic and beyond sight. You see a happy person, you tell him, can you explain it to me? You see a person in love, a person that is simply fulfilled. Can you explain it? When is that you explain? They say after you fail. People who succeed, they don't need explanation. They don't need to explain to anyone. What is that you feel? How come you feel? Well, people will tell you, we worked really hard about it. Okay, so what is all about? So you have to remember, the Zohar continues, כי בנוח כתוב בו ברית. With Noach, it speaks about the covenant. Noach kept the covenant. the covenant was given only on Mount Sinai. No, no, there was a covenant before with Adam. As Adam was created, God gave him some rules. Okay, there were some rules that humanity was going through, but people threw these rules out the window. What was the main rule? How do I get the immediate fulfillment right now, and who cares about the consequences? That was the story of the flood. Why flood? So, Kabbalah is teaching us that passion, lust, needs, desires, emotions, it's all about the element of water. Water is not H2O. We're talking about water as one of the four elements of the creation. And again, we're not talking about elements of more, whoever knows about the chart, the table of elements of Mendeleev. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the basic elements behind every atom, which are, you have the plus, the minus, you have the in between, like you have a proton, electron, neutron, but you have the atom. So you have four elements, four forces holding everything together. That's a basic element of creation. The element of emotions is water. When we disturb that element, which means we allow our emotions, our lust, our needs, our excitement to go overboard without any caring for any consequences, then water starts to get, the water element is losing its balance, and the result is a flood. So when we see today, we are in the middle of a flood, because you see so much hate, there's so much negative emotional speech all over the networks about anything, about everything, about politics, it's about, you just name it. And it's all negative speech and negative emotions. Humanity is not based anymore on logic. People don't need the logic anymore. They don't listen to logic. If you just go and find the basic philosophical definitions of democracy, and you just search the basic philosophers behind democracy. From the time of the 18th century, the founding fathers of America, the founding fathers of the French Revolution, and later on democracy in Europe and then in the rest of the world, and you look and you astound, because nothing of that exists in today's so-called democracies. There's no logic, no rationality. It's all about emotions. We are in the middle of a big flood. And what's the result? When water has no limitation and they flood everything, there are no rules anymore. There's no right and wrong anymore. There's no conscience anymore. Everything goes because you're just worshipping emotions. I have a terrible emotion, so that becomes your idol. I have a pain, my emotion is pain, so that's my idol. And the moment these emotions are not contained, not directed towards a constructive direction, the result is a flood. And the tsunami is erasing all what created civilization till today. There's no right and wrong anymore. You have all kinds of, all over the world, there are arguments about stuff. Once upon a time, just a few decades ago, that was clear. People knew the boundaries. So what's left? What's a refuge? Brit. What is Brit? Covenant. Covenant means there are some universal truths, some universal rules that the Torah is bringing to the world. They were made by God. What does it mean, made by God? Does anybody have an argument with gravity? Oh, a lot of people, they try to defy gravity. They don't want to be fat anymore, okay? They try to exercise so they are strong enough so they can fly and have flip-flop in the air and stuff like this. Still, you cannot really eliminate the gravity from your life or any other forces. Those forces are not bad forces, are not evil forces. They are forces that without them, there's no nature, there's no reality. Now you have to learn those forces and understand how to work with them, not how to work against them. The same way there are physical rules, there are also spiritual, mental rules that are being put in the Torah. And the Torah was given to us so we can keep these rules and basically keep our sanity together. And that's called Brit. So when a person is on one hand working hard, like everybody's supposed to build a nice, comfortable, safe home for himself and his family and his community, country, the world. Okay? If that, which is called here by the Zohar, the ark, teva. Teva is a case, is a box. You can put things inside. But if you don't put inside Yesod, what is Yesod? The foundation of the world. What is the foundation? The covenant. What is a covenant? There are certain concepts of honesty, integrity. It says very clearly, do not steal, do not murder, do not cheat, do not covet somebody else's wife, property, whatever. It's all about that. If you don't honor the rules, if you don't have integrity and you're not fighting for that integrity, you have nothing to put inside the box. So you can build a house like huge as a palace, that everything will be so precious and so expensive, and the best, most comfortable beds and whatever other luxuries in the house, you will always feel empty as long as you're not keeping the covenant, as you're not really working on overcoming, directing, controlling your passion that I have a passion to have right now last, to have right now some fulfillment, and who cares about the consequences? Noah was the only one who did not go with the flow. The result, he was the tzaddik, he was the yesod, he was the righteous person, he was the one that had the ark, and together he survived with his family and was capable of building the foundations for a new humanity. Who else was called tzaddik? Joseph, Yosef HaTzadik. What does it mean, Yosef HaTzadik? Joseph. And look about Joseph. He was super talented. Super talented. But till the moment that he had to overcome his passion towards Potiphar's wife, his boss's wife, and run away from her bed, although he had a passion, he was a young boy and he had all the hormones like boys in that age have. He was in his early 20s, okay, and he was already very successful. And you know how when the success goes to your brain, something happens with your hormones and you're trying just to manifest it when the area of Yesod, and Yesod, as we said, is also the sexual organ. And then everything becomes crazy. And he realized that that's impossible. So he risked his career, he risked his life, and he stood with his principles that his father, Jacob, raised him with. Although Jacob was far away, Jacob didn't even know where Joseph is. Jacob didn't even know where Joseph is. But the integrity, the covenant, was more important for Joseph. What was the result? He lost his job. He almost lost his life. You know what? Can you call it a life? Being in a dungeon in Egypt for 12 years? But you know what? He kept to his integrity. And the result that 12 years later, after that event, he became the one who feeds big part of humanity of that time, when he really changed the history of Egypt and the Middle East and also our history. So that is Joseph and his ark, and the ark of the covenant. Here we get one very important concept. And the concept is about, you want to be protected in this really like very, very tumultuous era. And things are going to be, and you don't have to be very smart to realize that the world economy, politics, it's so turbulent. It's so, can change any moment. It does change every moment. Things, no one knows what's going to be tomorrow, and people know that they don't know. And over things they do know, you have some of the disappointments. How do we keep safe? How do we build the ark so we and our loved ones, not just that we can feel contained, feel fulfilled, achieve real, true happiness, building lives. I'm not saying you're not supposed to be, you need to build an ark, you need to build a physical encasing for the light. A house, a place to live, family, physical people, physical community, physical buildings, with everything that is needed, but without the integrity, without keeping the spiritual rules of honesty, unity, that are much more important than gaining some more money. If you don't fight for that, you don't have an ark. And the flood that is right now shaking the biggest, most powerful countries in the world, like never before. Everything looks so shaky. Everything looks so unsafe. It's time to really build the ark again. And in Parashat Balutcha, there's an article that the Zohar says very clearly, in our generation, and we just spoke about it in last week, how so many of the prophecies of the Zohar, and the Zohar is just taking them from the Tanakh, okay, from the scriptures, but so many of them are just being fulfilled in front of our eyes. You have to be really not there, not to see it with your eyes. How the words of Ezekiel and Isaiah and Jeremiah are just happening in front of our eyes, starting with the building of Israel and all the conflicts around, whatever is going around in the wars and the instability, all of that is happening there just in front of our eyes. But the Zohar is saying the Noah's Ark of our day, the secret of it lies in the Zohar, the holy book of the Zohar. Learning the Zohar, learning the book, having the book is crucial for us in the journey of creating our own personal Noah's Ark. Good luck to all of us in our journey, because we need it. And it's not a matter of luck. It's a matter of learning, commitment, covenant, applying it, fighting to become that person that can build his life as Noah's Ark. Thank you, everyone, and a lot of success in your personal journey.